The Life and Times of William Shakespeare. An overview by Sharri Plaza. Romeo and Juliet was one of William Shakespeare's most famous works of all. William Shakespeare was born April, we don't know the exact date, but the year was 1564. He died April 23rd, 1616, which was probably on his 52nd birthday, which was weird. Baptized on April 26th, common practice to baptize on the third day after birth suggests Will's birthday is April 23rd. There is no other evidence of the actual date. His parents were John was a successful glover. The town was alderman until he mysteriously wasn't. John, around the time William turned 13, was counted absentee at church, which was a big deal, and incurred fines as well. He apparently mortgaged his wife's inherited farm as well, then flew under the radar for a while. Strange for a man who was basically mayor of Stratford. He probably dealt in illegal wool trading. And Mary, William's mother, was of a wealthy Arden family. Her dad left her a large family estate. She was quite a catch. She was wealthy. She married John when she was 17 years old. He was 26. Shakespeare. William was born into a well-to-do middle-class family, not rich, but successful in business and respected in the community. His mom and dad were from Catholic backgrounds, which was not necessarily safe. Queen Elizabeth I enforced Protestantism. Spies, informers looked for people like the Shakespeares who still held on to the old beliefs. It wasn't illegal to be Catholic, but Catholics couldn't practice, meaning holding Mass was strictly prohibited. Lapsing in religious duties, such as attending church, could get people fined. The Shakespeares were from Stratford. Will's home on Henley Street. School years. William started grammar school in 1571 at the age of 7. Tudor England would have been the most literate society on the planet during this time. Start school at 6 a.m. in summer and 7 a.m. in winter. Required to memorize huge chunks of literature by heart. Also learned debate and social responsibilities like politeness and civic duty. Had to participate in drama. In 1578, thanks to Dad's illegal wool trading and Catholic stance, Will had to leave school early and become a breadwinner for the family. William gets a family. He found love with Anne Hathaway. Not this Anne Hathaway. Nope, young Will married Anne Hathaway of Sharri, a small village near Stratford. Anne was 26, a full 8 years older than the barely legal William. When they married in 1582, Anne was pregnant. Tudor England wasn't such a spiritual golden age. An estimated third of the Tudor family population were pregnant when they were married. Extramarital sex took place at every level of society, so Will's wedding was more commonplace than we would be led to believe. They were married on the 27th of November. The couple lived with William's parents in Stratford. They remained there after the birth of their first child, Susanna, in 1583. Judith and the children's names were Judith and Hamnet. William and Anne's twins were born in 1585. Susanna, Hamnet, and Judith Shakespeare. These are William Shakespeare's children. The twins are left and right, and the son Hamnet is center. In 1583, Shakespeare pretty much falls off the radar, beginning a time historians call the lost years. Career. First play was in 1590, the comedy The Two Gentlemen of Verona. Over the next couple of years, 6 more plays were written and performed. During this time, Shakespeare became commercially and financially successful, a big deal during this time thanks to some important people with whom he had gained favor. People didn't take plays seriously, but Queen Elizabeth I did enjoy the theater. And later, so did King James I, after whom Shakespeare's acting troupe, the King's Men, was named. Most artists and actors aren't exactly rolling in the dough, but Shakespeare made bank. Before his plays started raking in cash, he had patrons pay him to write them poetry and was an actor himself. Scandal. In 1608, Shakespeare publishes Shakespeare's Sonnets, which contains the poems that lead us to believe he was involved in a messy love triangle with one of his patrons, a handsome young man, and Amelia Lanier. These were not received well. Later, they would shock and disgust Victorians because of the clear homosexual undercurrents and obvious eroticism. Family tragedy. Shakespeare's son, Hamnet, dies at age 11. The cause is unknown. Shakespeare is away on tour during both the last days and funeral of his only son. Back to the theater. The Globe. The theater. So, perhaps surprisingly to you, Shakespeare wasn't upper class, had no royal connections, and wrote for the people. Who would boo and laugh and yell at the actors on stage? Shakespeare's plays contain plenty of innuendo and bawdy humor. Scandalous. Yet he was a hit and his plays live on today. How did he do it? He read a lot, seriously. In order to know enough about history, the courts and royals, mythology, and more, Shakespeare had to devote himself to learning as much as he could on his own. High school dropout, remember? So, see what reading will get you: an awesome career, plenty of adoring fans, tons of money, and everlasting reverence for your unmatched talents. Altogether, Shakespeare published a total of 37 plays and 154 sonnets, plus some additional poetry. Today, we divide his plays into 3 categories. Comedy, poking fun at love and other silly trifles, usually full of bawdy humor, typically ends in a marriage or a big party. History, fictionalized accounts of actual historical figures and events. And tragedy, tragic hero has a tragic flaw that leads to his downfall. Lots of people die. Controversy. Christopher Marlowe, born 1564, same year as William Shakespeare. Social class was middle like Shakespeare, but he did attend university. so he was better educated. Writing style was innovative and popular by the 1580s. Shakespeare would have known Marlowe and was clearly influenced by his work. Christopher Marlowe died in 1593 under mysterious circumstances. Though the coroner declared his death the result of a fight, it more likely was a murder that was a result of his big mouth when it came to government issues. Clearly, Marlowe is Marlowe and not Shakespeare. He died, on the record, way too soon and had plays and poetry of his own published. Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford. Edward had a better education and knowledge of the upper classes, would have traveled more, so could accurately write plays set in Italy. The poetry of de Vere sounds similar to Shakespeare's. There are parallels between his life and the play Hamlet. But he died in 1604, before 12 of Shakespeare's plays were published. He would have had no need, as an aristocrat, to write under a pseudonym. Modern critics find no connection between the poetry of de Vere and Shakespeare. The end. William Shakespeare, aged 52, died on April 23, 1616. The cause of his death unknown. He lies in Stratford upon Avon, near the home where he was born and raised. The life he lived was full, often of drama, in both the literal and the social sense. Yet successful and impressive, his friend rival Ben Jonson once said that Shakespeare was not of an age, but for all time, and he was so right. Shakespeare's 400-year-old plays have been adapted into many popular modern films. Did you know that? Okay. Romeo and Juliet was a modern adaptation of Romeo and Juliet was West Side Story. The Lion King is a modern adaptation of Hamlet. And
The History of English in 10 minutes. Chapter 3, Shakespeare, or a plaque on both his houses. As the dictionary tells us, about 2,000 new words and phrases were invented by William Shakespeare. He gave us handy words like eyeball, puppy dog, and anchovy, and more show-offy words like dauntless, besmirch, and lackluster. He came up with the word alligator, soon after he ran out of things to rhyme with crocodile. And a nation of tea drinkers finally took him to their hearts when he invented the hobnob. Shakespeare knew the power of catchphrases as well as biscuits. Without him, we'd never eat our flesh and blood out of house and home. We'd have to say good riddance to the green-eyed monster, and breaking the ice would be as dead as a doornail. If you tried to get your money's worth, you'd be given short shrift, and anyone who laid it on with a trowel could be pushed with his own petard. Of course, it's possible other people used these words first, but the dictionary writers liked looking them up in Shakespeare because there was more cross-dressing and people taking each other's eyes out. Shakespeare's poetry showed the world that English was a rich, vibrant language with limitless expressive and emotional power, and he still had time to open all those tea rooms in Stratford.